The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to Week 8 of the K4Wins.com podcast. Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia playing for their playoff lives. Auburn playing for their bowl life. Is Clemson back as a top 5 team? We'll talk about that. In case keeper, the NFL underdogs are 7-20 against the spread the last 2 weeks. We'll talk about the National Football League coming up in a few minutes. Case Keeper, of course, the chief editor for the Las Vegas Sun. He joins us. Kip Keeper, he is the executive director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino. Does a fantastic job of doing handicap, and also, of course, star of the Starting Lineup Show, which I do every Saturday morning on ABC 3340. Kai Gregory, longtime handicapper, plays both sides of the fence and knows exactly what he's talking about when he's breaking down ball games. He loves those little tails, those little flips, those little halves. And, of course, I'm Tony Kurre, been doing the sports radio, worked at ESPN for a while there for about 20 or 30 years. Want to welcome our brand new affiliate to WFLI, our first affiliate in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Welcome in, and thanks for listening to K4Wins.com. Let's start up in the upper left-hand corner. Kai Gregory's always got our numbers. Not a great week last week, but still a winner.
No, I mean, last week, our worst week of the year, and still a little bit over 500. Still got a couple of units if you played. We were 22, 18, and 1, which puts us to 172, 102, and 8 on the year. Still 61% clip on our winners, and I think anybody would say, we started out very hot, 61%, can't go wrong there.
That's not fantastic. This is a monster weekend, Case, and I'd love to be out in Las Vegas with you because I think this is where really the smart money starts to come in. We always know at the beginning of the season is when the better wins, middle of the season you break even. At the end of the year, when you have all the information you need, you would figure it would be to the bettor's advantage, but it's not. We usually get taken, and then we got these two monster games. Alabama, Tennessee, of course, Tennessee 1-16 against Alabama the last 17. Bama's only given up 3 on the road. And of course, Georgia +5. Georgia obviously is never an underdog, and certainly not by 5 points against what arguably could be the best defense in all of college football. Let's start with Georgia, Texas. So what do you see in this game? Where's the money moving?
Yeah, I mean, you actually see a little bit differently as the season goes on to with what you're talking about the professionals. I mean, there's some big time groups that are really shaped the market that bet 6 figures a game that start dropping out at this point of the season because I think it gets a little bit tougher. We have so many data points. Everyone's kind of working with the same stuff right now that there's not really those huge edges there are at the beginning of the season. I know all of us, especially me, I stick through it all the way. I'm still as ready to fire as ever. But you talk about sharp moves and sides that the big money likes. I think one of the big games, there's a clear one this week, and it's Texas. And it makes sense to me. I didn't ultimately bet Texas, not directly. I actually did bet some Texas national championship because I do expect them to win this game. And if they win this game, it's never going to touch 5-1 again, which I got earlier in the week. It's hard to totally rule out Georgia. Like you said, it's weird to see them as an underdog this big. But if you just go based on what you've seen this year, I mean, the quality of these teams just looks a lot different. Texas looks a whole lot better. I know that there's the whole, well, they ain't played anybody. You hear that all the time. But, one of the biggest lessons that I try to teach people is it's actually just as predictive how you treat really bad teams than it is how you play against really good teams. And just to suggest that they haven't passed every test with flying colors, I think is a little misguided. So I don't know. It's going to be a good game. Like I said, I don't have a bet on it, but I do expect Texas to win. It'd be hard for me to lay 5 points at this time. If I could go back, I'd probably bet a little bit of 3.5, but hey, this would all be easier in hindsight, right?
Kip, yeah, no doubt. Kip, Georgia's senior class is 47-3. Those 3 losses all against Alabama. The last time these two teams played each other, Fran Tarkington was the quarterback of one of these teams back in 1958. What do you like on this Georgia line? Again, it's one of those smelly fishes to me. I mean, they're begging you to take Georgia plus the 5, right?
Well, it would seem to be that way. I will say, coming into the season, my analysis of this Texas team was they had just about everything, except I had serious questions about their secondary. And if you look at the teams they've played, they have not faced a single team in that group of 5 that has any aptitude whatsoever to throw the football. And I think that they're going to be severely tested today. People are down on Carson Beck, but he threw for 470 yards last week, and that's kind of been the norm of, high threes. I mean, he's lighting it up. with kind of a depleted core of receivers too. I think Georgia's going to have to air it out to win this game. I think the Texas front against the banged up Georgia offensive line is not going to be conducive to Georgia trying to establish the run, which seems to be an obsession with Mike Bobo every single week. I think they come out flinging it, and if they can block them enough to give Beck some time, I think they're going to severely test the secondary. So, and if Georgia, just from a perceptive standpoint, their backs are against the wall. The old Muhammad Ali line, "I got to have it this evening," is very applicable to the Georgia Bulldogs here, because there's really no margin for error. They have to go to Austin. They used up their mulligan at Alabama, coming back to take the lead and then getting Hollywoodized at the end. I think Georgia's the desperate team in this spot. So I agree with Case. There's no way that I could that I could take Texas here with the 5. I would be tempted to take Georgia with the 5 because I think they're the team that has to win.
I don't think there's any doubt that Georgia is one of the 12 best teams in college football. If their 2 losses are to Alabama and Texas, they should get in regardless. Somehow they're going to get in, but it's hard to believe that in week 8 they could have 2 losses. Guy, before we get into the game, I know it's going to be huge on your table, Alabama and Tennessee. What's your thoughts on this Georgia-Texas game?
If Robinson, Georgia's backup running back, is out, which they're saying he is going to be, then that leaves Etienne as the only really established running back, and he is not their third down back. He is not a blocking back. He's a runner. I think that greatly affects what we're talking about with Georgia there. I love Quinn Ewers, is back. Georgia's secondary scares me. I think the game goes over. I think Texas hits their team total over. If I played the game on a side, I would play Texas. I would give up 5. I would give it up all the way to 7. I'm just not super impressed with Georgia. Could be absolutely wrong. I just think there's going to be some points scored in this game.
All right. You've got the jersey on right there. You got the pullover with the big orange T on there, man. And I know how much it means. I listen, I worked for a radio station that was owned by Dick Broadcasting up in Knoxville. They had the broadcasting rights to the University of Tennessee football. And then, of course, I moved down here in Birmingham, and they had the rights to Alabama. So every game, I went to Tennessee back and forth, back and forth. Of course, it used to be very competitive. 1-16 is Tennessee in the last 17 against Alabama. Both teams like to put up some points. Let's start with you, Kai. Your home team catching 3 points at home. That offense, which looked unstoppable in the first few weeks, looks like it's a little suspect. What do you like?
Tennessee scored 60 points a game. Averaged 60 points a game in the first 3. They went into SEC competition. Now they average 20 points a game. Heupel has gotten ultra conservative since halftime of the Oklahoma game. They were throwing the ball over 20 yards downfield 10 times a game those first 3. Now they're doing it on an average of 2 times a game. The way you're going to beat Alabama is Alabama's young secondary. They are not going to line up and pound it against Alabama. If he tries that, it's going to be a long day. I think both O-lines struggle. I do think for the first time since, 1998, Tennessee can say they have the better defense, allegedly, so far. And we'll see how that goes. And Tennessee has a lot. But Peely getting hurt last week, being out for Tennessee, is going to change some things. You're going to have a redshirt freshman that's going to spy Milroe. Honestly, I hate to say it, I think Jalen Milroe goes off on the ground. I think he's one of the best running quarterbacks, in the country. Nico looks like a redshirt freshman playing scared when he's throwing. He's not going through his progressions. He's not there. And I don't think Alabama's had their best offensive game yet. I think Tennessee may have had their best offensive game. If I'm playing it, I'm going to play Alabama -3 because I think Milroe's the difference.
Alabama has lost 19 points on turnovers the last 2 ball games. And, of course, Jalen Milroe, 3 picks his last 2 ball games as well. Hey, Kip, how many times are you going to hear Rocky Top this Saturday?
Well, I would prefer not to hear it more than 4 or 5 times. But nothing against the traditions at UT, but Rocky Top is not my favorite song. But I think this game is pretty fascinating from a lot of different standpoints. I don't don't know about Alabama getting the pass to be a road favorite here. I think Tennessee is kind of feeling like they're backed into a corner, and they survived looking ahead of Florida, I think, a little bit. Looking at this game, I'm leaning Tennessee. I just think Alabama is too undisciplined, makes a lot of mistakes. I don't know. I don't feel good about this. I do agree with Kai that Milroe is the ultimate weapon if they deploy him. I think that's how they sprinted out to the huge lead against Georgia, because they kind of contained him in as a pocket passer in the early games, and Georgia wasn't prepared for that onslaught right at the beginning. So this is just going to be a very interesting tactical game to see how it goes. And I don't know. I really don't have an opinion on the game, because I said last week on my Sunday morning show, Alabama, Tennessee, I have no idea how this game's going to play out, and I really haven't progressed very far from that stance.
Alabama has given up 33 points a ball game their last 3 games. Over the course of the last 8 games in this series, 66.7 points scored per ball game. I love the over 56 this ball game. I played the over in Alabama the last 3 weeks. I hit every single week, and I see no reason why Alabama's defense is not going to give us some more points to Tennessee, particularly in Tennessee. And by the way, it would be really hard to bet that over, because the last 2 years, the score at halftime was 3-0 in both of those games. So It was a really low-scoring game the last 2 times. Case, what are you seeing out there in Las Vegas? And, of course, this should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, who knew I'd have the most definitive, I won't want to say confident, but I did bet Tennessee +3 in this game. I wish I waited a little bit. So I see at least 1 3.5 here in Vegas. I think a couple other places. So if you're betting, I look for that 3.5. That's big. Not something I love. Not one of my favorite bets of the week, but I think maybe it goes back to something Kip said. I don't know if Alabama deserves the respect to be this big of a favorite on the road. I made them a 1-point favorite in this game, so a little bit of an edge there. Alabama, I agree with you guys, has the offensive edge, but I think Tennessee pretty clearly, I mean, despite the injuries, despite everything, is equally as good. Has an equal edge, I guess I'm trying to say, on defense that Alabama does on offense. Being at home, huge game. I feel like they're going to calm down. I still trust Heupel. More than not, I think he'll have a good plan going into this game. So, I mean, really just a straight numbers play. I mean, if Tennessee was a 3-point favorite in this game, I'd be betting Alabama. I just think it's going to be really close. And I also wouldn't mind at all Kai's kind of path to victory for Alabama if it's just Jalen Milroe goes off. And that's something I'd implore you to look at if you do like the Alabama side in this game. I actually think Jalen Milroe's Heisman price has drifted too far. I've been on him from the beginning of the year. I don't really think this downturn is totally on him, and he still has the numbers. He has the numbers that's going to fit right with these past Heisman. So if you think they're going to win here, that they have a little bit a more manageable rest of the schedule. So if you can still find Milroe 13 or 14 to 1 to Heisman for the Heisman, and you're confident they're going to win this game, that might be a forward looking way of betting this. But yeah, I had to take a little bit of Tennessee +3. Wish I waited for the 3.5.
We'll see if Smokey's going to be howling this Saturday night. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com for all of our plays. The site is free. Check it out, K4Wins.com. Because we are based here in Birmingham, along with all 4 of us here. Want to get into the Auburn Tigers. Obviously, this is not the year. It's hard to believe. Just a few weeks ago, we were talking about now if Auburn can start 5-0. ... No one said, well, if Auburn can start 2-4, what are we looking at now? An underdog at Mizzou by 4.5 points. And the crazy thing is about this particular team, both teams 3-3 against the spread, which tells me Auburn being 2-4 and 3-3 against the spread, no one really expected this team to do very, very well. I always like to look at that spread because obviously if you're beating the spread, you're doing better than people thought you would do. And obviously they're right where they need to be. But catching 4.5 of the Auburn Tigers, Kip, this is a tough one for Hugh Freeze. Obviously he's going to be the coach for a while. But right now the Auburn Tigers, their schedule doesn't get any easier.
Well, as bad as Auburn's been, and they've been bad, it's amazing to me that Missouri stock has fallen to this degree where they're a skimpy 4-point favorite at home against a team that's 2-4 that has really not performed very well, been the highest, I think they're still second in the country in turnovers. It's just been a dumpster fire. They went with Peyton Thorne. We questioned that decision going into the season. It wasn't second guessing because it's proven to be true. Peyton Thorne was not the guy to go all in with. The Auburn defense, I think, has played in spots pretty well, but I think they're still inconsistent. And the strength of their team is their running game, and they seem to get away from that. So the fact that Missouri is only a 4-point favorite, and this going into Texas A&M 2 weeks ago was the number 9 team in the country that had dropped even a couple of spots after barely avoiding an upset against Vanderbilt. Wow, I got to tell you. I really don't know how to look at this game either. Auburn's had 2 weeks, but I still think Missouri, personnel-wise, is much better than Auburn.
And man, this was supposed to be it. I mean, Nick Saban's finally gone. Auburn's finally supposed to shine in the state. Everyone's finally supposed to be looking at that football team because we didn't know what DeBoer is going to be doing. And next thing you know, they're starting the season 2-4. Really, really concerning about that. Case, does anybody care about this game in Las Vegas?
Well, someone likes Auburn quite a bit because I saw it as high as 6 at open Sunday, and it just keeps coming down. I'm kind of like you guys. I have a tough time wrapping my arms around this one. I don't know, 2 teams that are a little hard to figure out right now. It's hard for me to wrap up exactly how to compute Missouri. I guess I don't know if total roster wise they really have that big of a personnel advantage over Auburn. They kind of had a dream season last year, but a lot broke their way, including the schedule. They haven't looked all that impressive this year. I guess I'd ever so slightly lean towards Missouri, especially winning. But yeah, this one's a little bit tough for me to figure out.
All right, let's dive into it here. We have a 1-5 FSU playing a 5-1 Duke. Who would have thought that going into week 8? I mean, that just sounds crazy. A bunch of other games, including LSU and Arkansas, which should be a great ball game. Let's start with you, Kip. Give me some of your best bets. When you look at the college run, you've had a few days to look at that stuff. You've already done the show starting lineup, which, of course, airs on Saturday mornings from 10:30, 11 o'clock. You did your best bets there and your dog of the week. But what strikes you as some good plays for this particular Saturday afternoon?
Well, you mentioned Arkansas LSU in Fayetteville. I think LSU was in an absolute late night Saturday war last week with Ole Miss. The game just got kind of wild down the stretch. LSU outwilled them. I think LSU was so beat up. I'm shocked still because I think Ole Miss's roster is much better. I think Ole Miss kind of panicked down the stretch and didn't put the game away. Jackson Dart just became a runaround, chunk it down the field when he lost Harris. But I got to think LSU really got further wounded, and this is a real tough ask for them to come right back to Fayetteville, a team at Arkansas who's been kind of a giant killer. So I like the Razorbacks in this game to win straight up. I still think LSU's suspect. I'm taking Arkansas as one of my best bets of the week, and I've got a few other ones here. Miami has tinkered on the edge now 3 or 4 times. They've danced on the edge of disaster. Louisville hosting them here, and Miami keeps escaping. Louisville's getting 5 points at home. I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're as good as these other teams have been giving Miami a lot of problems. So I like Louisville at home. Cincinnati ventures down, or back home, I should say. They're just a 4.5-point favorite. I don't believe in Arizona State. Arizona State's getting some things done out in the desert. They were picked dead last in the Big 12 this year, 18th place by the media in Las Vegas before the season. I think that they have exceeded expectations, but I think Cincinnati's an underappreciated, pretty decent team. I like them. And I also, this one's a kind of a shocker. I gave out on the TV show this week. I like Georgia Tech with the points playing in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They're moving up the street from Grant Field to Mercedes to accommodate a huge crowd. They are going to be super pumped up getting this kind of attention. They are getting 10 points at home. I don't believe in Notre Dame either. I think they're false. I like Georgia Tech. And finally, my last one of the week that I like, and again, you might have checked my sanity, but in the SEC, all these inflated underdogs just give a hell of a fight every week. Texas A&M now, who was kind of unknown commodity coming into the year, now all of a sudden they're a 17.5-point favorite on the road in an SEC game. Mississippi State's got to be brimming with confidence after giving Georgia a good tussle last week. Give me the Bulldogs at home. I think Jeff Lebby's making progress. I'll take that 17.5 and laugh all the way to the bank.
Kip is hopping on a bunch of dogs, is barking down there in the lower left-hand side. Kai, what's really, I know you already said something about Alabama minus the 3, which I give you credit for because there's a lot of homers out there that just take their heart and not their heads, but you think better than that. What do you got?
Looking at some of these, there's 25 games we could talk about. There's a time crunch, but something we haven't talked about: Vanderbilt.
Yes,
they got their 4th win. That is the second. That's the second preseason pick we had already come under. We had
in week 8, baby. In week 8, yeah.
We have Vandy over 3 games total. Now they're going in as a 26.5-point favorite against Ball State. Wow. When's the last time Vandy was a 4-touchdown favorite over anybody? I don't have a pick here. I do think they win the game. It's game 5. So now where's game 6? Where's the 6th win for Vandy? They've got Texas, then they go to Auburn, then they got South Carolina, then they go to LSU, then they have Tennessee. I will be at that game with my youngest. So there's that. I'm going to go with Kip. I think Mississippi State, and I like the over 56 in that game against A&M. State has played Florida, Texas, and Georgia, their last 3. They are not going to be scared, at home against Texas A&M. We hadn't even talked about Kentucky and Florida. Kentucky going for their 4th win in a row in the series against Florida.
That is, by the way, that's unbelievable. Florida used to just own. I used to play Florida every year against Kentucky because it was going to be 56-20 every single week. I cannot believe that Kentucky is going for their 4th consecutive win against the Gators. That's unreal.
Same thing with Tennessee, and Florida could be on their 3rd running back ball. So, watch the injury report, just like against Missouri. Missouri, Dole, their running back is out. Luther Burden is still listed as questionable. Those are huge players for Missouri in that game. I loved Auburn at 7, but at 3.5, 4.5, I don't know. And then, just some to throw out because, we have to talk. We have to. Now that my son is a Marine, I got to go Navy. I mean, I love Horvath.
Oh, there you go.
He's part of the Navy. The Army and Navy, both undefeated. Army's a 15-point favorite. I love them over their team total. If that game comes down to 14, I'm absolutely going to love Army. I think Navy minus 16 still, like I said, got to go with that. Horvath is the real deal at quarterback. Navy's been playing great. They scored 212 points last year, all year. In 5 games, they've scored 218 this year.
Wow.
Loving Navy over their team total. I'm not going to touch, some of these other ones. I think Nussmeyer's the difference. I think LSU is going to beat Arkansas. I don't think that I think Arkansas's dream season is probably coming down. Taylor Green's hurt. Who knows, what's going to happen with him playing there, actually. So I don't know. Just like South Carolina, Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma's going to struggle against Kennard and that defensive line. And then other games we're not even going to talk about, but they're out there. Kansas State minus 1.5 at West Virginia. Virginia at Clemson. Clemson early game, 11 o'clock at home. Never a great bet. Nebraska and India like. Kent State, Bowling Green, they're going to go way over 54.5. And my upset, Colorado at Arizona. I'm going to jump back on Coach Prime and go there.
All right, good stuff.
Love it.
Go ahead. Kip, you want to add something?
No, I just said I love that slate. That sounds great.
I got 5 games. Like I already mentioned, Bama over 56. They've hit the last 3. The last 8 games, they're averaging 67 points a ball game in this particular series here. Bama against Tennessee, and again, the last 2 years, it's been 3-0 at halftime. But the second half, it is just absolutely up and down the football field. Hopefully, they'll do that in the first half, so I don't have to sweat it out in the second half. We know Tennessee's 1-16 overall in the last 17 games. But I do love the over in Alabama. Their defense, this is not Alabama's typical defense. It's not. They're giving up 33 points a ball game their last 3 games. So I'm going to take the over in that game. I much like the game a couple of nights ago in the pros where the 36 showed up. I'm not sure why South Carolina and Oklahoma's line is only at 41. South Carolina scored 25, 33, and 21 points on the road at Kentucky. They have been shown to put up some points. They only scored 3 a couple of weeks ago. They bounced back after Beamer gets in their face. They did it past weekend. Of course, Oklahoma only put up 3 against Texas, but Texas has got the best defense in college football. I think Oklahoma can easily easily put up 25 or 26 points. South Carr could do the same thing. So I love the over 41 in that ball game. We've been riding BYU pretty much all year long. They're giving up a big nut -9 against Oklahoma State. I hate betting against Gundy just because I just don't like him. I don't like his hair. I don't like the way he looks. I don't like the fact that he's in his 20th year. I don't like anything about the dude. Somehow in hell, he won 10 games last year and everyone was writing him off. He wins his first 3 games. He loses his next 3 games. BYU 6-0 against the spread, 6-0 straight up. And of course, just about 25, 30 hours ago, he benches Alan Bowman, who was a 7th-year guy. He's been playing college football for 7 years. How would you like to play college football for 7 years and get benched? He gets benched for Garrett Rangel. Garrett Rangel has very little experience, period, at quarterback. So I really like BYU -9 here. My dog of the week, I'm going to go out in the Mountain West. I'm taking Nevada +3. They're 3-4 overall, but they're 5-1 against the spread. They played out of their skins. I like them +3 against Fresno State. And because my son, like your son, Kai, I've been looking at this Clemson. I've been staying off Clemson all year long. They've covered the last 4 ball games. They did it again against Wake Forest, and here they are giving up a 3-touchdown nut to Virginia. I can't do it. I think Virginia, even on the road, I think they can keep it. They've kept it close all year long. Virginia has. They haven't been blown out against anybody. I like Virginia +21 against Clemson. Not a huge play, but I certainly like them if you have to watch the game and you got a gun to your head. Case, what do you like?
Yeah, well, you guys covered the board pretty well. I think I have to say it because it's become a recurring bit. I'm suspicious of Kip. I think he could secretly hear us when before the show to give you behind the curtain. He said he couldn't hear us. Kai said, "Who'd you give out on the starting lineup?" Literally, the first 2 that I could remember are the opposite sides of what Kip gave out. It's every single week we're on opposite sides. I like Notre Dame -10. Quite a bit. I think this number, it's bounced back and forth to higher all week. I think people are thinking Haynes King is going to play. I do not think he's going to play. And this is a similar situation where I've, been the year. Some of these teams are just the quarterbacks, their whole team. I think Haynes King's been amazing. He's put that team on his back a few times. But if he doesn't play, I guess I'm also a little higher on the Irish than Kip. They are banged up. They've lost some of their best guys. So I think a time to fade them's coming. I just don't think it's this week. I think it's bad that this game got moved from Georgia Tech's home field, too. I think it's going to be like 70% Notre Dame fans. I think Notre Dame probably rolls in that game. And then the other game I mentioned, of course, is I do like LSU at Arkansas, and it's another quarterback injury thing. I know Arkansas has a little bit better behind Taylon Green, but I think they really need Taylon Green at his best to win this game. And I think he's going to give it a go. I would guess he's going to play, but I don't think he's 100%. I just trust LSU a little bit more, even though I don't think they're great. I've been betting against them a lot this year, including against Ole Miss, unfortunately. I just feel like they're buttoned up. They're kind of, what you're going to get out of them. Whereas Arkansas, I mean, some weeks they look so sloppy. Some weeks they look like world beaters. So I feel like there's a lot higher level of variance with Arkansas. So I like LSU to win that game. Yeah, you guys mentioned so many other games. Like I guess in the SEC, the other game that kind of sticks out is I do like Kentucky at Florida. QB injuries are just the theme of the week, but I know DJ Lagway is going to be great eventually, and he was actually good filling in for Graham Mertz after he tore his ACL last week. But I still just don't trust him for a full game against this Kentucky defense. I would give the Wildcats the edge here. I know it has moved a lot. I bet +2.5. They're like a 1.5 point favorite now, but through the 0, that's not a huge move. So I like Kentucky there, and I guess just since this is the game next to it, so I know I bet it. I bet Memphis -10 against North Texas. North Texas's defense is just a sieve. They give up a ton of points. I feel like the Tigers were kind of downgraded because Navy had their coming out party against them like a month ago. But you look back and that loss doesn't even look as bad as it did at the time with what Navy has done. So if you're looking for another favorite, I like Memphis as well.
All right, Case, in just about a minute, what do you got in the NFL, real quick?
Oh, man, a lot of short lines this week, a lot of short underdogs. I know one thing that stands out, Sunday Night Football, there was a big move in the Jets' direction after they got Devontae Adams. I don't know. I saw Devontae Adams up close every day for the last 2 years. I don't think he's necessarily the guy that he was when he first got to Las Vegas or Green Bay. I don't think that should have been like a 2-point move. I actually like I know people are going to hate this and yell at me, but I think Russell Wilson gives the Steelers a higher upside than Justin Fields.
I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, Justin Fields he can't complete a pass. I know running wise it's great, but so I like the Steelers as a slight underdog. The game right before that, I kind of like the 49ers laying a short price against the Chiefs, although I lose betting against the Chiefs every week. A lot of great games on the board this week. If you want to know all my break down every game at LasVegasSun.com if you want some more thoughts.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw 3 more at you. You mentioned Pittsburgh. They're a home dog for only the 23rd time. They're 17-6-3 against the spread in those games with their underdog since 2007. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I'd like the Chiefs. They're actually an underdog for only the 12th time since 2018. They're catching 1.5. They're 8-3-1 against the spread in those games. They have won outright 7 times when they're an underdog. And I'm liking Tennessee too. I think Tennessee's defense is playing pretty good. Their offense is horrible, but I like their defense. I think 9.5 points is a lot against the Bills. In the game last week, the Bills had to win. Obviously, it went overtime, and that was a game that just actually took a lot of emotions out of the Buffalo Bills. So I'm going to take the Tennessee. If you can buy it up to 10, get it done. Again, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Get all the plays. It's free. Check us out. You can go back and look at all of our plays. It's well documented. We're hitting 61%. We're on fire. We're going to have some special guests coming up in the coming weeks. And thanks again to WFLI in Chattanooga, our first affiliate, joining us. More affiliates on the way. Gentlemen, until next week, thank you so much.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.